some about a program and some mission issues that you're addressing that you feel you're making some great progress.
Sure. So this is actually completed, so I wanted to talk a little bit about a success story. It's not necessarily IT, but it's a dependency of IT. So it's streamlining the deployment of broadband. We have approximately 124 bases, however you want to count them, across the Department of the Navy. One of our challenges was to get broadband deployed, and when you look upstream, who's responsible for that was a challenge. So we had to get the right people. In this case, installations, environment, and energy owns the installations. Then we had the spectrum managers on the bases, and many of them did not report to the same folks throughout their chain of command. So normalizing those two, we pulled together a team, and essentially the objective was we've mapped the process, and it took 5 years to get broadband towers out onto a base because of the methodology that we used, and we changed that methodology, and it's down to 12 months or less.
Wow.
So we can talk a little bit about some of the challenges and things that we overcame, but the objective was to get broadband out there so that those devices and those families on bases and those missions being conducted on bases have an opportunity to have the vendor community support that in a more rapid fashion.
Great. I love talking about wireless, since in the past I've taken credit for inventing wireless. What are some of the challenges along the way that you'd like to pass on that others may learn from you?
So I think the question is how do you deploy things? We all in the IT community can blame finance, we can blame our acquisition community, whatever the case, but historically how we've deployed and distributed towers was through an RFI, an RFP, and through a lease. And so you get into a long, laborious discussion with all kinds of attorneys and acquisition professionals. That time frame when mapped out was 5 years. If you challenge that question, why do I need to actually do a lease? The real estate professionals that were at the team, the base installation spectrum folks, and the public works folks, the actual definition became easement. And if you just change that one word, you've just changed your entire process, because for an attorney, a lease versus an easement is a big deal. And so we've got instructions that are signed out. We're actually using easements to do access to towers onto bases. Those companies can go and build, but it's not a proprietary solution. So the first one in builds it. The second one can use that same tower at a lower altitude probably.
Okay.
And then we can have more carriers on that tower faster. And the outcome would be our end users, in this case, our folks that are possibly in very remote places, don't have to have twisted pairs of their house. They might actually be something that they would have out in town. So there is a demand there. We have 124 bases, as I mentioned. Some of them are as large as a state. So when you look at Camp Pendleton, it's a huge facility. Yeah. And there are some dead spots that I think when you have the opportunity to put towers out there a lot more rapidly, you'll have both a mission and a capability that a family may need.
Yeah, so if I have this right, this is benefiting both the Department of the Navy as well as the local community. Is that correct?
Well, it would depend upon their tower placement, whether or not they'd have usage outside the base. At some of them, they might not be able to go that far. The point is the base has a mission and it has a population that could be served. Historically, they have not come on, that being the carriers, because it's been too laborious and time intensive. This is going to help. And also the funding that is created, or the revenue, 50% of that stays on the base for the base commander, so that's an incentive for them to be desiring that, and 50% stays with the tower lease organization that maintains it. So it's a self-fulfilling opportunity.
And a lesson learned to pass on?
The lesson learned, I think, would be to challenge why we always do the things we've done, get the right people in the room, and then go start with the end in mind, and that is 5 years is absolutely unacceptable to deploy any kind of a tower.
Excellent. Well said.